Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Higher Density Living with your hosts, Alexander and Jason.
Yes, we are live.
We are live. The mics are hot. And Jason, who is putting the energy through these mics? Who is sponsoring the show to make it happen?
I think we have two sponsors.
Yeah.
One is Tartle.co, and Tartle does what, Alex?
Tartle allows people to get paid for the information they create online. It's as simple as that, right? You get your value for everything that you do online, whether it's social media, medical data, or how you think. It doesn't matter what it is. Within 3 steps, you can sign up and get paid for the information you create every day.
And it was interesting. I had just did a podcast on my Albuquerque business podcast, and we talked about the film industry. And
Yeah.
he was saying how much data, terabytes and terabytes of data being transferred back and forth as you have all this post-production. So we're in the beginning stages of this data transfer.
Right.
And how does somebody get, because we've asked this question, I know on your Tartle YouTube channel, you answer a lot of questions people ask, and I encourage people to go to there. But how do you get paid for me going on my Facebook page?
That's super good question, right? So you're going to create an account on Tartle. It'll take you 15 seconds. Won't take you much time at all. It's free to join forever, right? And once you're on there, you go to the data packets page, which is all the information that you kind of fill out or information about you, the stuff
Right.
that you want to sell, get paid for. There's a thing for social networks. You're going to click on that, and you're going to link up all your social network profiles. And then once you've done that, people can now buy your social media information off you. And it's that easy.
That's awesome.
It's as simple as that. You just watch, the bids will roll in, and all you do is hit confirm, and just like that, you've been paid.
I love that.
And-
so it's so if I have a Google phone,
Yeah. Oh,
or I have a Mac.
I'm glad you asked. This is not an application that you have to download. It's available on any phone, any software platform. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a computer, a tablet, cell phone, you name it. You go to Tartle.co, and anybody can access it anywhere in the world at any time.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
go to Tartle.co, sign up. I know everyone that listens to Higher Density Living, we'd love for you to do that.
Yeah, no, it'd be great, guys.
It's anonymous. It's private. They're not there to...
This is not to game anybody or make
Right.
money off of them. This is to empower everyone else to now find the value in themselves.
I love that.
And we have a great website, Higher Density Living.
Yes.
And so if it wasn't for Rigby Digital, okay?
Great name, by the way.
Yeah, a great name. It would not have
So
been
English.
It would, yeah, it's so English. That's so English.
That's why we're right now in celebration of Rigby Digital. We're
having
drinking double white.
We're drinking our double white. Hashtag so
Yeah,
English.
this is marble. This is amazing. Is this a Hefeweizen?
I don't know.
It says ale brewed with spices. What? That's a big word they got down there.
Punctiliously.
What does that word even mean?
I have no idea.
We're gonna have to look that up.
like-
You with words don't know.
Well, punctilial? I would assume that it's down to the detail, right?
Oh yeah, I bet you that's what it is.
You know, punctuation is a function of detail, right? It's a finite ending to something.
Right.
So I'm just looking at possibly the etymology or the root of this. It's got to be down to the detail.
What's interesting is these exact colors are what Rigby Digital logo is now.
That's
This
badass.
blue and this white. So
But
that's
Rigby
interesting.
Digital built a phenomenal website for HDL.
Right.
And not only on top of that, their search engine marketing and their ability to do online marketing is second to none, whether it's social media, Google, local ads for your business, small to medium sized. Rigby Digital can handle just about anything you throw at them.
Yeah, it was interesting. We were talking to a client the other day, and they were asking how specific you can get. And you know this as well as I do, being on the tech side of things. People are typing in long tail keywords. So, we're typing in sentences now when we go to Google.
Yeah.
Not just, best cleaners, Albuquerque. We're actually typing, best cleaners in Northeast Heights.
Right.
We're taking these.
People are being
and-
more specific.
Right. People are being way more specific. So you have these people that are coming in, they're typing this on Google. So these are lower funnel people that are actually interested in something.
Whoa, lower funnel. Take it easy. Take it. What can we not like?
Upper, middle, and
Can we
lower.
not classify
We're getting
people
into
on
marketing.
funnels now? Oh my God, I'm
Is
sick.
there a higher density funnel?
I'm sick right now. Oh man,
It's a marketing terminology.
my gut
yeah.
has been. I'm perturbed by the lower funnel.
I just came back from a marketing meeting, and I literally, like, every other slide was funnels.
Oh,
We're gonna focus on the mid funnel people, and these mid funnel people, they're cross shoppers, and
am I a cross shopper? If it was the
it's a
40s,
certain
and
type
if you
of
were
style of clothing you're wearing.
if you were a cross shopper in the 40s, they'd lock you up.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh man,
So yeah, we have websites. We have anything that is digitally related. We do that shiz.
and you can handle
That's
it.
my yeah.
And
yeah,
you
we can handle
deliver
it.
high amounts of value.
Yeah, high amounts.
Yeah.
Higher density living. We're going to be delivering high amounts of value.
Oh,
and it's available. I liked what you talked about the other day, Alex. Before we get started on the show, we're going to be talking about reincarnation, everyone. But so don't tune us out. This is going to be interesting. We're going to go through all the religions.
Buzzing. It's already
We're
in
gonna
our
go
ears.
through, yeah, the science of it. But you were saying something the other day, and I agreed with you about how we want to provide the information to everyone. That we don't want somebody, even though we're developing this as a not-for-profit and doing
Right.
it, to help humanity, but that we didn't want somebody to, donate $400 and then they get something special.
No.
And somebody donate $4 and they don't get as much information. What was your philosophy on that?
Well, the philosophy on that is then you create a model that becomes exclusive, right? That's like giving money to Harvard University so your kid can get in. We don't want to do that. We want everyone to have access to the educational resources that we provide, right, in that journey, because everybody has the right to that free will and that knowledge. It's not that if someone gives more, they deserve more, right? Everybody is totally able and in absolute fairness and equality of everything. We have to make sure that our model is inclusive of everyone.
So any content we produce, anything that we put out there, we're just going to have it available for free for everyone.
For everyone. And guess what? If it does you some good, donate some money.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Or share.
Yeah, or share it. Whatever
Yeah.
you do.
And if you don't have the money, we'd be more than happy for you to share it on your social media.
Yeah, and then listen, that's just as much as giving back as, taking something out of the bank account.
Yes, exactly. Because our whole mission is not to do this to make money. Our whole mission is to do this for people to understand and for us to delve into what is truth.
Right, and this is like an agendaless mission, right?
Yes.
All we're trying to do is just spread the unification of a higher truth, right? And tell everyone that there's an interconnectedness of all of us, right? And doing that higher good has better benefits, higher payback for yourself and the rest of society at large, right? And that's the whole point of this. And so if we limit that to a few amount of people, that's not going to help anybody.
Yeah, that doesn't. And I don't. We had a couple podcasts back. We talked about that, the haves and have-nots.
Right.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, that just perpetuates an exclusive society where then it only benefits a few rather than the greater whole.
Right. And our whole idea, holistically,
Right.
is to help every single person on this planet.
Holistically.
Yeah.
Whole.
Yeah.
Right?
As a whole.
Yeah, as a whole. It's a unity, right? And that's what we are. It's all is one.
And I watched a movie the other day. I was watching it with someone, and I didn't watch all of it, but there was this. It was like a horror movie, and there was a big hole in the ground, and the kid was trying to explore it and didn't know where it was from. So you had like this, esoteric thing going on with spirits and all kinds of stuff. A typical horror movie.
Got it.
And the mom was so afraid. The child, because this is what we're going to get into. So I kind of like to.
That's a nice bridge.
Yeah, I know this is. The child wanted to explore. And it didn't have fear. The mom was putting fear into the child. And then in that fear, the child was wanting to explore even more, because it's always, if you can't do something,
You want to do it more.
you want to do it more.
You're not allowed to drink. Oh, I got to drink.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
smoking pot's illegal. Oh, I definitely want to smoke it more.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this child kept finding, whether it was in the middle of the night or when mom was at work or whatever, it kept finding time to go explore this hole. It was like a big, huge, like, something like a spacecraft would fall into the ground type of a thing.
It's kind of badass.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. But it kept walking up to the edge and trying to, in its curiosity, trying to find something. It was looking for something in its childlike creativity.
Ooh.
And for each of us, I feel like, I was looking at it and I was kind of putting myself in the child's shoes, as I begin to explore the truth, as I begin to get past these religious dogmas, as I begin to go into this journey or exploration, in higher density living, and we talk about the cliff's edge,
All the time.
and I see myself as like that child, not being fearful, wanting to look over, wanting to see.
Oh, the innocence of exploration, right?
Yes,
Not
yes.
having a distorted perspective on the world, like, don't do that, right?
Right.
Because that limit, what's that do? It's essentially like limits your experience. And then at that point, what is there to really learn? From a safety standpoint, I get it, right? But sometimes people need to figure it out. You know how many times I had to burn my damn hands before I figured it out? And I use that as a metaphor.
But
right?
what is safety when it comes to infinity?
It's an illusion.
We're all gonna die.
We're all going to die, right? So whether
There's no way. I don't care if you're a billionaire at Google and they're spending billions of dollars with these scientists trying to make them. Are you gonna freeze your head?
Nah.
Are you gonna? At the end, this body is going to be lifeless. This physical body.
death is a strange fear, right? And we're going to get into reincarnation. But
Yeah, that's where we're bridging.
in my
We're bridging
content,
like a mother.
big bridge. We're like London Bridge right now. You know what I mean?
Don't you like this transition?
I love it. Yeah, it'd be my contention is that when you die is actually the real time when you're born, right? And when you're born is actually when you start dying, and that is a fact, right? From a cellular level, your telomeres begin to shorten, and your genetic code doesn't reproduce as quickly, and then you begin to die over time, right? That's what life is. Life is essentially death. It's a temporal, and temporal means it's bound by time. The body is just here. It's on borrowed time, on borrowed material from the earth in its borrowed form. That's all it is. The earth borrowed its resources from the sun, right? And we're borrowing our resources from the earth so that we can grow ourselves so that we can then go back to that same earth. Simple as that. But that energy, the conservation of energy, second law of thermodynamics says that energy has to go somewhere, right? Not that the fact that it's either, transmuted into the soil itself, but the actual energetic, the personality, the higher ego form of the body. What is Jason? That personality, right? That experience over time. Where does that electrical signal go? It's not a change of the thermal heat transfer. We're talking about an electrical signal. It has to be absorbed by something, right? And we found that doctors have studied this quite well, is that upon death on an operating table, the body becomes lighter, albeit just a few ounces lighter, right? And it's their contention that's the soul leaving the body at that point.
No, scientists have said this.
Right? And so we need to look at this because when we talk about reincarnation, people are like, that's horse shit, right?
It's a religious thing from Eastern.
Yeah. So when we start looking at reincarnation, we look at it from a scientific standpoint, right? Using scientific analysis, right? And data. And we go back and we start to be like, there's no way, like beyond a reasonable doubt, that these things could happen or these people can talk about these truths because they're living right now. How could they possibly know what has happened from a proven historical event, right? That had happened, but they're right now and they're just like in their youngest years can tell you that they've lived a different life before this fact. And someone recorded these cases over time, right? And reincarnation is nothing new. This is a story that's been talked about by religions all over the world, from paganism to Jainism to, you got Hindus, classic antiquity, the Celts, the Judaism, all of it talks about that form of reincarnation, right? So that cycle, and cycle is an important word, right? Because everything in this universe spins. And spin denotes a cycle, right? It goes back to the same place it started before. That's the cycle. Our Milky Way galaxy spins. The sun spins. We spin around the sun. Our planet then spins itself while it's spinning around the sun. Everything spins. Everything has
Our
cycles.
creation spins.
Trees
the
spin.
seed.
All these things spin,
It
right?
dies and gives rebirth.
Tornado spin, hurricane spin. Everything has this spin to it.
Right. We
All
spin
right?
cycle.
It's the
together.
it's the cyclicality of things, and
Right.
people are like, "Oh my God, I'm stuck in this same old cycle."
Right.
Right? Well, yeah, you are.
What is that spin cycle? That Padillion or whatever it's called?
What?
Palladian.
Palladium?
No, there's like a new bike that you could buy that has a big screen on it.
Oh, the Peloton.
Yes, there we
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
So
That sounds like some alien subspecies.
Yeah, the Peloton. It's a Peloton species.
But that's a spin cycle thing, right?
Yes, of course it
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
right?
Have you ever gone to spin class?
Oh, I used to be a spin teacher.
No way.
Swear to God.
Did you have legs? How high would you have to get the seat?
Well, I got a 36 inseam, so my seats are like jacked up all the way. You know what I mean?
Could you imagine that? Your seat is probably as high as
My-
Byron, the radio station.
Yeah, my ass to where like the top of my torso is like a 45-degree angle because the handlebars are down here, right? And when I stand up, my ass is in the air. I look insane, because there's so much
But
leg.
you could probably spin like a mother.
Oh, all day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You were a spin teacher?
yeah.
See, I learn things new every day.
I was also an indoor rowing instructor.
I know.
Also.
I knew the rowing thing.
Yeah.
And that would be like perfect.
Well, that's obvious, right?
Yeah,
But the spin
I mean,
instructor, yeah.
You were made to row.
Yeah, they called me the spin Nazi.
The spin Nazi.
Yeah,
no pun intended.
Because they would go to class, these, well-to-do people on a Wednesday, mid-afternoon, going to spin.
Nothing else to do.
Going to spin class, right?
But you work.
They haven't,
You worked the privilege out of them.
dude. Let me explain something. My idea of physical labor is a little bit different than
everyone else's.
Yeah, to the fact that a couple people had to go to the hospital because they didn't know what it was like to actually use their muscles. So their muscle pain that they had, they had to check themselves into the hospital because they were so worried. It was like for the first time ever they started
My
using.
abs hurt.
It was the first time ever they started using their bodies.
What's that burn you get on your thighs? Like a lactic
Oh,
acid?
the lactic acid? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get
that was your goal, to
and
make
then-
sure everybody was burning.
delayed onset muscle soreness, But they came back, because they kind of liked it.
Oh, well, we do. Why do we like that? Why do we like to struggle so much?
It's not so much the struggle. It's beyond the struggle. It's the testing of the limitations of ourselves. And on the show, what we're doing is we're asking you to test the limitations of your consciousness and your perspective of reality. Okay? And I want that to feel as good as when you go to the gym and you test how much you can do that last max rep set or how far you can go on that run, all of those different things.
Yeah, because we want to test ourselves spiritually, mentally, and physically.
And you want to push that limit, and then you start to realize, especially from our standpoint, is that there really is no limit. It's just what you perceive as the limit.
Yeah.
Okay?
So when we get into limits and we get into reincarnation,
Cycles.
a lot of people in cycles, a lot of people look at it as being kind of more of a religious concept over, something that is proven. I mean, I guess you could say proven. There's been some studies, and we're going to get into one with a doctor.
Yeah,
with children and stuff like that.
proof. What does proof require? It requires measure, right? Remember we talked about measurement, how measurement's kind of bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're measuring something, you say, oh, this is a distance. Well, what is distance? Distance is defined on what someone says, okay, well, this is 12 inches. You know what I mean? Okay, so what's the proof? Well, I said it's 12 inches. You know what I mean?
There's
But-
a lot of guys saying that.
Right?
Not true.
There's proof. Yeah, you have proof, and then you have truth, right?
Right.
And proof is a measurement of the physical. But when you look at truth, truth is something that sits above just the physical, right? It's the higher form of something that is actual reality. And that's what we have to dig towards. So when we look at reincarnation, it sits outside of the world of measure and the world of proof. It sits in the world of a higher truth, right? To understand how everything gets recycled, right? So your body, it's going to die, and it's going to go back to the earth, right? So in a physical format, the resources of who you are will be given back to the earth and then reused again by somebody else.
And it's funny because most people believe in an afterlife.
A lot of people believe in the afterlife.
What would you say, 80-90% of people?
Oh, easily. People are
Because,
like,
I mean, what's the percentage of atheists? Probably 10%?
not that many, dude.
Yeah.
It's like a small
Most people
amount.
are agnostic, not atheists.
Yeah.
So, and we can get in, we'll have to do a show on that. But everybody believes in an afterlife. But then when you start talking about reincarnation,
Yeah.
but what's happening in an afterlife?
Yeah. What's going on?
It goes hand in hand.
Do I float around? Am I burning in some horrible
Yeah,
place?
what are you doing when you're in an afterlife?
Okay. So
I mean, think about it, though. I mean, do you just go to heaven and walk these golden streets and just hang out and
I just
drink
walk around?
strawberry milkshakes all day long?
there's no schedule I need to follow? Like, what do I do?
What purpose
Yeah.
for higher conscious is there if you're just hanging out in heaven or burning in hell?
Right. What life lesson is there to learn? If so, okay, the church's contention, if I'm burning in hell, well, because I didn't learn my lessons here on earth, I'm just going to the eternal hell and burning, the heat, all this other stuff, the fumes, like whatever it is. I don't know much about hell. I don't even pay attention to it because it's just a whole bunch of nonsense, right? It's just a
Right.
sense of fear. Fear's also worthless. There's nothing to fear in this life, okay? It's just what someone tells you should be fearing. Well, how do you know? Have you been to hell? No, shut up. What are you talking about? You don't know what hell is. How would you even know where it came from?
Well, it's also psychosomatic too, because then they give proof of these people that have died and then they came back and they said, they saw Jesus or they
Yeah.
saw. But then you have people in different cultures and different religions, they saw their Messiah. You know, whether they saw Buddha. Or,
Everybody has a perception of something, right?
Right.
So when you look at a painting, Jason, you and I are going to feel two different emotions, right?
Yes.
Or how we perceive that painting or a sunset or all these different things. So how they perceive some higher form of truth, some sort of avatar figure for them, right? That says that this is the consciousness, the Christ consciousness, the Buddha consciousness, the Krishna consciousness, whatever it might be. This form, this Abrahamic form, is the thing that I want to see when I die. Well, that's what they're most comfortable with, right? So if you look back at our earlier episodes, we talked about dreams. And your dreams typically revolve around places that you're most comfortable with, that are most well known.
Right.
So when you die, the last things get greeted by something like a big, tall-ass
Devil.
alien or something
Yeah.
awkward, like an octopus walking around. You're like,
But
whoa!
don't you think people that died fearfully, like they have these people that said they went to hell? There's a guy that wrote a New York Times bestseller
I saw that, yeah.
where he actually went to hell and then
I
came
mean,
back.
how long did he say it was in hell? I forget. It was some time in hell or something.
Yeah, and
like
so
that.
then he was talking about Hades and the different levels and all that. But I mean, I would imagine if that was a fear that you had, and then you died being extremely fearful.
That's the expectation.
That's the expectation. So you're going to come into that environment.
You set that expectation of death, right? That look at everything. If you're going to wake up for the day and you're going to be just a totally shitty, rotten mood, how's the day going to turn out?
Yes.
Shitty and rotten.
Yes.
Right? So when your perspective of death changes, right? To understand that this is there is no hell, this is rather a blissful state, that when you are done, you learn and you go through all of these things that have happened in this life, and because you're not bound by time, you can see every event that has ever happened to you in your consciousness, right? Your higher form. And then you begin to review these steps. And everything, the choices you made, were they the right choices? Are these things I needed to do? Was this the learning I needed to take on my soul's journey?
See, how much more positive is this?
Well, it should be positive. There's no
Dude,
fear in it.
everybody's fearing and so negative. And you have all these religions out there, and then people are so afraid to die.
Dying is, here's the funny part, they should almost be like slightly more afraid to be born. Think about all the chaos in this world. Every time you drive a car, you have the ability of dying, right? Just the odds are never in your favor.
No.
Being in physical form is a rather dangerous thing because it's a place where you need to learn, right? Where lessons can be somewhat harsh sometimes. But the point is that this is a learning area, and your perspective of how you treat the world and others begins to change if you look at it through the lens of, okay, if I'm here on some sort of journey, and everybody talks about karma, but what the hell is karma? Well, it's a function of reincarnation, right? They look at this world, your idea of how you treat people and the planet's going to be different because you know you have to come back to it, right? So people are like, screw it, I only live once. Well,
Yeah, screw the environment.
I'm not
screw-
sure about
yeah.
that, dude, because you screw it up now, and when you come back to it after 30 generations of your kid have gone by and it's been 1,500 years and you choose to come back in a physical form, guess what? You got to deal with the bullshit you left in place, okay? Then your perspective on how you treat things and people begins to change, all right?
But think of the perspective, because like what you said a few seconds ago is so important. You're saying, with reincarnation, you're saying the lessons that I've learned in this life,
Correct.
I want to carry so that I can learn. I don't have to learn that same lesson all over again.
That's the whole point, right?
See, how beautiful is that?
Well, it's beautiful. That allows you to blossom. So do you remember?
And not in just this life,
No,
but I'm going to blossom to go
even
to a higher
further
conscious,
in the next
whether
one.
30, 40 lives ahead.
I'm going to move an octave above. I'm going to, like, if I'm on a keyboard, right, or
Right.
a grand piano, if I'm playing in my lower tones right now, but I learn the lessons, I'm going to move up in a scale. And it becomes more fruitful, more vibrant, more beautiful. And that's what you want to do. You kind of want to move from the left to the right. You want to move through these cycles and you move to that higher octave of sound, something that's more blissful, something that's more like Mozart, right?
But think about it. So let's say what you're saying is all bullshit.
Good.
And let's say that I'm Catholic or I'm, Islamic or I'm Christian or whatever, and I believe in hell. And that's all bullshit too.
Okay.
Which is, even at the end, which would be better to believe in?
Yeah, yeah. Which one do you have a preference of
Let's
believing
say
in?
atheists are right and everything, and it's just evolutionary biology, and when we die, we're done.
You die. You just go into darkness.
But how much better? Think about this. I mean, no, like really, really think about it. I'm going to right now decide to make a decision to know that I have a chance to come back and be something that I can learn even more.
That's
And
correct.
so I want to learn now. I want to leave what I'm doing, the people that I talk to, the places that I interact, the planet. I want to leave all that better
Right.
because I'm coming back. If I believe that, I'm coming back from the lessons that I've learned in this life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
Doesn't that just get rid of those distortions of how you were looking at the world?
Yeah, great
Doesn't
word.
that lighten a massive load that's on your shoulders?
That's what I was feeling. I was feeling free all of a sudden.
You begin to feel free even when you talk about it. So let me explain to you how you're an infinite being, okay? Do not get a little wobbly or just like, this is hub or whatever the hell people call it, right? Your body is filled with light photons, right? It is the structure of a majority of the things that make up who you are. You get this borrowed material from the sun. Those photons don't go away. That's infinite energy. That energy has intelligence to it. The thing that transmits your Netflix stream to your house is light going through a cable. What do you think is coming through? An electrical signal? No, it's light that is pulsing, carrying information. Your body is albeit infinite amounts of light carrying information.
Right.
So if you change that light, you charge it up, right? You understand the knowledge of what it is. That carries forward. That light does not die. That energy, like we said, the conservation of energy, does not go away. That continues. So to say that you don't reincarnate, I don't care if you don't think you're going to reincarnate as a human, that light has to go somewhere. That energy signature you created within your body, okay, and energy,
Right.
that's a real thing, okay, energy signatures. What you've created, that vibration will continue. It will extend beyond you.
So is that what you would perceive the soul to be? Is that light
Yeah.
of higher consciousness?
That's exactly right. So I perceive soul or spirit, right?
Right.
I find them as one of the two things, right? Interchangeable. That is the light. That's the higher form of yourself. That's the infinite part of yourself. That's the part that looks back and reviews this entire life of physical form, this life of struggle and hardship and, frankly, illusion that we think is such a problem, right? Because we need to find the beauty in it. Why do all the gurus over time sit down and be like, you need to let those things go, do not become attached to these things, and then find out who you really are, which is that infinite being? Understand that you come from the sun, you're made up of these things, right? You have all of the universe within yourself. They've been talking about this for thousands and thousands of years. And this idea, right, has been shared over and over and over again. And we've seen it with somnambulists. A somnambulist is a sleepwalker, okay? We've seen it in biological cases and studies, that reincarnation is an actual thing. And we've seen that when people die, right, even in a hospital and they come back after a brief time, they're either out of their body, so they're in a soul body or an astral form, looking at the physical self. And that astral body's alive. They're conscious of the event, but the body is dead. Outside of an electrical signature that sits outside of it, right? So when we're looking at these things, you start to realize that so when I die, I'm leaving the physical vessel, but I'm moving into the form that is truly me.
And in Latin, it says it's entering the flesh again. That's what the word reincarnation.
Yeah, incarnate, right?
Right.
Incarn, that means that's the flesh, right? Carnate, a carnate is flesh, physical form. So when you reincarnate, that's the idea of a cycle. And everything in the universe has cycles, right? It's not beginning or end. It's just cycles of things that happen over and over and over.
And in the Greek, that's what it was saying. It's like meta, which is change. And then I can't pronounce this word in the Greek, but
What?
it's like episikolion or something like that. But it's saying to put a soul into.
Right.
So change and put a soul into.
Right. So the form's going to change, right? So the body develops genetically, and then the soul comes and enters that at some sort of form in the fetal stage. Okay? And then there you have it. So the reincarnate form chooses the body in its higher form. It goes through and it's going to review, okay, these are the lessons I want to learn because I'm looking at the karma I've built up in a past life. Have I relieved some of that karma? Have I forgiven myself and the choices that I've made and what I've done to people and my actions? Have I lightened myself to move myself up to a higher vibration? Okay, did I not? No. Okay, I'm going to choose these sort of lessons and I'm going to put it inside of this body so that my higher form will have these whispers, right? This intuition. And we all know what intuition is, right? It's that gut feeling. The gut feeling always leads you down the right path. And when you ignore it, you typically find yourself doing the wrong thing. And you know you've ignored it, right? That's you ignoring the life lesson of karma from your higher self. So let's pay attention to reincarnation. So, Jason, what groups have looked at reincarnation here?
Well, I think there's a lot. I mean, you can get into, from studying it. We all know, like you were saying, it talks of being an interconnected cycle of existence, and it's called transmigration. So regardless of the culture, everybody's had a belief of this.
Everybody.
One of the things that is interesting is because it's this interconnected cycle of existence, this is where it gets controversial, and I want you to address this right now. It talks about it being not just human beings, but animal, planet, I mean, plants, spirit. So there's even like a non-human realm.
Right. So there's animism, and animism says that everything in life has some sort of spirit or soul to it, whether it be a plant or a rock or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. All these religions, since the dawn of religion, have said that there is spirit or soul within all of these objects. Like a pagan, they look at a tree, that tree's alive. They'd run through the woods knocking on it to call the spirits out of the tree, right? There's all these different things that would happen, right? So when we begin to look at this, people are like, oh, well, how could the dog have it? Well, the dog has consciousness, does it not? Does the dog recognize you as another being? Well, that has consciousness. And if we look at the study of plants, right, and how plants are receptive to our feeling, plants think and feel what we're going to do because of the gentleman we had talked about previously who hooked up the lie detector test.
Right.
Right? What the hell's that machine called? Doesn't matter.
The oscilloscope?
No, the oscilloscope. No, it's like an oscilloscope, right? But for a lie detector. And he hooked it up to plants to realize that plants are responsive to our conscious thoughts.
Right.
Okay? So the plant is also feeling what's going on in that conscious realm. So the plant has a life energy to it, right? But all of these things have a base energy of light that comes from the sun, right? This energetic form of photon of information that makes up everything that there is. But we're just a different walking, talking form of it, not a cow that moos or a dog that barks or a plant that says nothing but just absorbs light.
Right.
We're all doing the same thing, just in a different form. So people are like, oh, did these things reincarnate? Well, everything is trying to elevate itself and its consciousness, right? Its growth. And the idea of reincarnation is that it is trying to elevate itself. It's trying to bring itself closer to the original form or source. Where did you originally come from? The sun. So the idea of reincarnation is you want to move yourself as close to that original, highest, purest form of who you are. Isn't that what we try and do? You read all these business books and shit. You go to these seminars. We listen to people online. People listen to us. It's because we're trying to better ourselves.
Right. It's that common desire.
It's that common desire to learn and elevate ourselves.
And the word would be hope.
And yeah, hope, right? Or faith that there's something more, there's something greater than what is currently going on here.
And I would never want to live with the idea of there being no hope for my life.
What joy is there in life if you...
That I'm just some evolutionary blob.
Just blah.
Process.
Yeah, nothing, right? Like, what good is that? But they've shown through all of these studies and research and recordings that consciousness can exceed outside of the body. We show that on our very first episode, that consciousness starts outside of the brain. The brain does not create consciousness. Consciousness goes into the brain.
We would have no art.
No, we wouldn't have any
art.
art.
Have the ability to be able to have hope with a consciousness.
No.
That's what gives us art.
All the beauty, all of those shows we connect with on TV that make us feel good, that hope, that joy, that hero's journey, all those things are innate in us because that is the cycle of reincarnation that we all live through in some form of another.
That birth of that beautiful flower.
Exactly.
That's perfect.
Remember we did a Q&A on flowers?
Mm-hmm.
The roots are the things that are permanent, but it's the world that is not seen. But the flower is blossom and it comes back and it dies and it comes back and it dies, it comes back and it dies. That's what you're doing. But the roots, your soul, the thing that is true to you that you never really see, always remain there. And they grow further and further and they expand and they feel and they learn more through the soil, right? This universe that it is underground. And then they can pull in more resources because the flower becomes larger and more beautiful every time.
And that biological body is just a temporary vessel for that eternal soul.
That's exactly right, right? And then you start looking at DNA and the attributes of DNA that if you put DNA in a jar, okay, and then you remove it from that jar, okay, you take it out of there, what you find is that the signature of the DNA, the light photons of the DNA in a very sensitive reading instrument, shows that the DNA sits there in that form for 30 days. After you've removed the physical substance from the room, its photonic quantum form chooses to sit there in that space for 30 days. So it exists outside of where the physical thing actually was.
So that disproves atheism right there.
Right out of the gate, right? And it's just a kind of a sad, negative way, deterministic way of living life.
Well, I mean, whether you're a fundamentalist or whether you're Richard Dawkins or, it's that same anger. Whenever anything goes against, and you've shared this, with me, and it's so enlightening, and I always want to promote this. Whenever anything goes against your free will,
yeah,
and says, like even atheism goes against your free will.
Of course,
it says, you are just on this trajectory. Here's where you're at. Biologically, you just were created from whatever.
You tell me everything else gets to define who I am in my path? You're telling me that idea or dogma constrains how I'm going to live my life and finish it? Come on. This is who? Is the dogma standing here in front of me telling me you got to do this, you got to do that? No, it's just you telling yourself, don't live by something else that's taking away your control. That's your free will.
And I think instead of embracing science to the point of understanding spirituality, we've segmented the two apart, and then we've created this class. 'Cause that's what it is. We've
Excellent.
created this class of higher learning that turns around and says you're ignorant
Yeah.
because you're religious or you believe in something. And I'm afraid we're going in that direction. There's like, we have spiritualism that is coming into full effect, and we're getting rid of a lot of these dogmas and stuff.
Right.
But then we have this other path that people are walking where they're deciding to take this nihilistic approach and say, you know, I'm just this. And I don't like that there's no hope in that. I don't like that I'm just an animal to give to my desires, whatever my hedonist desires are. Because, you know, when you look at, and I don't want to get into a whole, you know, aspect of atheism, but when you look at it, it's like, why not kill that animal? I'm stronger and smarter than it. Why not take 10 wives and abuse them? Because I'm stronger than they are. And if she happens to get the better half of me and kills me, then so be it.
Well,
that's evolution.
Isn't someone else strong?
That's so dark.
Someone else stronger is always going to come around, right?
Always. So how are you gonna live
Always.
your life that way?
What, always think you're at the top of the food chain when you aren't? Why don't you go swim around the ocean for a bit until you meet a shark or something larger than you?
Or the mountains up here.
Right.
The backside of the mountains. I was reading an article the other day. They were saying we got to be careful on the backside. The backside is where all
It's
the
like the
bears
dark
are.
side of the moon, you know?
Stand between two cubs and a mama bear.
Yeah, have fun
and
with that.
threaten those cubs.
And then you keep...
And you have no weapon.
and then
And
they...
see how who on the food chain wins in that.
And you're in
one.
your mid-30s and you die and you're like, well, that was a short-lived life.
Yes, yeah. I'm
You
glad.
better be hoping you come back because, man, don't you wish you could experience a little bit more?
Yeah, Joe Rogan was talking about that in his podcast today. He goes like, a bear would literally be like the worst way to die
Yeah.
because they just put their paw on you.
And then they just slowly, like, scrape. They're slowly scraping, like, peeling you apart.
Yeah, with their. It's almost like it'd be like the worst. I watched this video. It was so horrific, and I wish I could get it out of my head. But it was like this big eagle in Alaska picked up like this little toy poodle or something.
Oh, my gosh.
And you just got to think, this thing is food
Yeah, that's all it is. We look...
for these other birds. And
This
it's
is-
really going to pick this little...
Is,
People
Jason,
just tuned us out right there.
is that not our, like, distortion of reality, though? We look at the dog as, like, some of the being, but to something else out there, its perspective is like, you just brought free food out here for
But that's
me.
atheism right there.
Yeah.
That's okay. That eagle could pick that toy poodle up and take it at its... So be it. That's life. I don't want to live that way.
No.
I don't think we're not animalistic evolutionary beings to the point. I mean, I believe in evolution, understand that process.
Everything
we adapt
evolves.
and get stronger.
The soul evolves. Don't look at
Yes.
it as just the physical self of evolving.
I like that.
That's one thing, right? And evolution is dealing with catalysts, right?
right.
So people are like, oh, it's survival. Have you ever read Darwin's book? You know, people would really like close their yap for a second if they actually understood what the hell was going on.
The
Dry
origins,
book,
yeah.
super boring, the origins of a species. It talked about it's not the animal itself evolving, but the catalyst in the environment that it has to change itself to adapt to.
To adapt to, right? Yeah. So if it's getting colder,
Yeah.
then that environment has to adapt that. That's why we had the issue with the dinosaurs.
It's not that it procreated and it made a better one.
Right.
No, it's these ones were adapting better to the catalyst of the environment. So the larger form of the universe actually decides your evolutionary path, right, in a physical form.
Right.
So now we got to look at, so like, what's going on with the energy, right? And I want to be clear about this. The rest of our episodes, the rest of the knowledge, the rest of the things we bring into this reality of everyone listening, to the listeners, to the viewers, right? It has to have this basis, this higher forming truth, okay? This idea that life continues on in a higher form, in energetic form. If we can't move past that bridge, it's going to be very difficult to look at the info that we talk about further on and the studies if you cannot look at the fact that reincarnation is a massive factor in the learning that we are here to do, right? And these changes, the perspective, the higher form, the beauty of life blossoms more when we can have that firm footing, right? And we will talk about this study, but it's very important to understand that this is just a temporary vessel of you, but you will always continue on. You are infinite.
To grow and move towards a higher conscious.
That's what we're doing. We're trying to move to that higher density living. We're trying to move up that octave on the piano. You know what I mean? We're trying to be that more refined person. And that's what we want to move to, right? All of the teachers of time, Buddha, Krishna, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, all of those different avatars, individuals, gods, whatever you want to call them, we're talking about that refinement of the person.
Mm-hmm.
It's elevating who you are as an individual, right? It is that journey, it is that path. And before we get into the studies of reincarnation by Dr. Ivan Stevenson, can you tell us a little bit about Jesus? Because I know you're well versed in this.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of people don't understand that. And in Christianity, there was big controversy with reincarnation. And they say now about 27% of Christians believe in reincarnation. And so the thesis of Christianity is that we have God in the flesh, who was Jesus. You know, three parts of the Trinity. You have God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So to have us be able to understand God fully is God coming to us incarnate, virgin born, you know, so he wasn't bound by, there was a miracle of that, you know, to say, I am not from here, you know, I am God. And this is a miracle that can be performed. I am above all of this.
I am.
Yes, I am. And then we see a process of, even to the point where we know, we talked about this earlier, the Magi coming, knowing, looking at the stars and knowing exactly that point of time when the Messiah would come. Now, they did not recognize him as a Messiah. They just understood who he was, and they brought him gifts, frankincense, myrrh.
But the Magi had a concept of reincarnation.
Yes.
The Magi, these people that we all believe in, right?
And people need to do a research on the Magi. They'll be very interested to find out who they actually are.
Yeah, Hermeticism and all these other things, right? They knew that something formed of light, okay, this energy, form as a human figure. It will embody the higher consciousness of an elevated, understood that concept. It says right there in the damn Bible what was going on, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's why we have Christ conscious. I'm reading a book about that now, so we'll do a podcast on that. But and looking at the different levels of Christ conscious. But even the disciples that he had, whether it was Peter or, you know, James or whatever it was at the time, each of them show a demonstration of a part of our consciousness.
Yes.
And so each of those, and when you look in each of the books of the Bible and you see them in their writings, they bring that point out of each of their writings have a higher conscious.
Can we focus on that, what you just said, though? Jason, you're talking about they are focusing on the consciousness, not to go to the gym and get your muscles bigger or change the food that you're eating.
Self-help.
Right? It's not that type of self-help. They're worried about the consciousness, the thing that is inanimate, the thing that they understood to last forever, the thing that is absolutely, truly timeless. That was their focus. Their study, their journey, their learning, their application of that higher truth focused on that one thing that was outside of the physical. And that's something that shouldn't be ignored, right? It's something we shouldn't take lightly.
Yeah, and I think as we look at Jesus, and you had asked me earlier before the show, we were talking about, you know, Jesus dying on the cross and that he died for the sins of mankind. You know, that's the story that it goes in the Bible.
Yeah.
But then what happened to Jesus? He resurrected.
He resurrected. So he died and he came back
in another physical form.
In another physical form.
And at first, and the Bible talks about this, at first disciples didn't recognize him when he came back.
Well, it doesn't happen with everything, right? So we come... Right, let's unpack, right? We're going to unpack this for a second. They didn't recognize him, okay? But they were familiar with the energy of that individual, right? Jason, were you talking to me that you were speaking with someone recently?
Right.
And you feel like you have known each other before, but you've never met?
Yes. Yeah. So there is a girl that I was talking to. You know, I'm single, so but there was a girl I was talking to, and we were carrying on this conversation, and it was like hour and a half.
Yeah. And
opened fully up. Like she shared like her, like things that you just normally, when a person normally wouldn't talk. And then I mentioned something to her. I said, I think we've known each other before. do that. It's like, hey, Alex, how are you? I mean, we had really good conversation. Girls walking up to guy and saying, you know, I've had issues with this and issues with that, and here's where I'm at, with the first phone conversation without even meeting.
Right.
But we've all experienced that.
Everybody's to say you haven't,
We've
you're
all
lying.
had those people where it's just like, I know this person, and that's how I feel. It's like, I know this person like deeply. So
I don't recognize them, but I know that energy.
but when that person, I always want to respond quickly. I want to know. I'm actually like really interested in knowing more about this person.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Yes, it's exciting. And I know, like my intuition, gut, whatever you want to call it, I know that I knew this person before.
Isn't that great?
It's not some religious mumbo jumbo. I
No.
feel it as truth in me.
Right. And the other person shares that same
Yes.
vibratory pattern.
I said it first, and they're like, I was thinking that, but you know, of course, people
In quantum
our
mechanics,
egos or whatever. Yeah.
quantum mechanics, that's a function of coherence, right?
Mhm.
The two vibratory patterns, right, an energetic signature, push through the emotion of the individuals, and they recognize that energy. You felt it before. The disciples recognized the energy, but didn't recognize the physical form of the person, but he reincarnated.
John the Baptist, he thought Jesus had reincarnated. He said that.
Wait,
Herod Antipas, he
Again.
thought Jesus had reincarnated into John the Baptist.
again,
And then he felt guilt because he had killed John the Baptist. And that's a crazy story. It was a seven-veil dance, a stripper dance. It's in the Bible. It talks about it. And you can read about the seven veils where they slowly release seven veils. And then she turned around and told Herod the only thing she wanted was John the Baptist's head. And he didn't want to kill John the Baptist, but he did it anyways out of lust, you know.
right.
So there's a story with all that. If a woman's stripping in front of you, don't do what
Yeah,
she
don't
said.
give
Don't
her.
commit crime.
I was gonna say don't give her the head, but that's just totally.
Oh my god,
That's just
now I gotta
wrong.
click the explicit.
Yeah, no, it's the
We went
episode's called explicit.
people. But when you see Jesus, I think one of the biggest things that you have to understand is the early Christians recognized and believed in. You even had Saint Jerome. You had another man, and I can't pronounce his. I want to make sure. First Principles. He talked about it, you know, and he was a Christian. But you have a lot of people say, American Christian, whether you're Catholic or, you know, Protestant or whatever, we die. And we're there for all eternity, living basically in a higher conscious with Jesus.
Mhm.
Love. Now, they don't believe that we came back, but early Christians actually believed that. They believed in reincarnation.
Yes.
And then somewhere we got to the point to where we became so fear-based and doing the heaven and the hell thing.
There's no. What happens is when
The control.
the control has to come into place, right? And that's where certain people get power, like the Pope and things like that. When they start deciding or decreeing that certain things happen like this, or you have to pay money to save people from going into purgatory and all that other bullshit, that's just a control system that sits in place, right? That's a sense of fear on some illusory factor to say that they're determining this is what happens in the afterlife, when they absolutely have no basis for it, and it's just a way for them to control people and their minds and how they act out of that, and say that they have to give penance to these people so that they can save themselves because they were born out of sin, like all this other crap, right? Everyone's born exactly how they're supposed to be born and the choices they need to make. It's a reincarnative process, right? So we're just learning lessons over and over and over again until we move to a higher cycle.
Yeah, and he even talked about it in that First Origins book, and this is kind of because he talked about like annihilation and stuff like that, which is like annihilation was a doctrine in the early church too, on the opposite of that, where your soul is annihilated, like
The ego.
yeah.
It's important to understand that. So they borrowed a lot of that stuff from Eastern religions, right? That annihilation. The annihilation is talking about the higher soul leaves the lower ego, the thing that has the attachments to the physical world, that becomes annihilated. And through annihilation, you find the higher self. You move into that higher consciousness. And that's an important thing.
Yeah, and he wrote in this book, and you can get it Origin wrote this. Then beyond a doubt, bodies are only of secondary importance and arise from time to time to meet the varying conditions of reasonable creatures. Those who require bodies are clothed with them. And I want to make sure I say this right. When fallen souls have lifted themselves up to better things, their bodies are once more annihilated. They are thus ever vanishing and ever reappearing.
That's exactly right. So this physical body goes away, this one, right? And then you come back to borrow and incarnate in another vessel. But the higher form always comes back. That light body, right? All that energetic signature of the sun that you're currently borrowing right now that makes up your higher self, that goes into you, your genetic code, that gets reused and repurposed again in another vehicle. So I think we should make a little bit of a bridge here to go into how the studies work. So how do we make a case to say that, okay, all these religions for thousands of years have been talking about reincarnation, okay? They adamantly believe in it. They have figures that they know have reincarnated. Jesus reincarnated. A huge majority of the globe followed Christianity and Catholicism, right?
Right.
So they have to have some belief in it before the church changes that idea through a system of control. Okay. We have Sikhism, the Yoruba religion, Native American nations. All of these people understand the spiritual aspect and that the spirit lives on forever.
Right.
So how...
In different parts of the world without communicating with each other.
Yes. All came to a consensus.
Their shamans, their sages, their priests all came up with this.
Yeah. Without having contact.
It wasn't like everybody just like hung out and talked to each other and said, hey, do you agree on this? Okay, perfect, Alex.
No.
I agree this, you know.
How do we have all these people who have no ability to transport themselves overseas all come to the same general idea?
Yes.
That
in all religions.
I find that very interesting, right? And all religions have some way about telling you how you should live your life.
Right.
Okay? So...
But there are threads of truth that you can see interwoven among each other, like selfless love.
Right, and that's the theosophy. So Helena P. Blavatsky, the book we had talked about a couple episodes back, that talks about that universal thread that goes through all of those religions, right? It's the truth that they all seem to share, and that's what sits in the Theosophical Society and their idea of theosophy, right? And its inspiration, it came from India, the yogis, the Buddhas, the Krishnas, all those different things, the higher forms of the body, the annihilation of the lower ego. All this stuff is shared, okay? So...
Even Scientology believes in...
Even Scientology...
Reincarnation.
Even Scientology...
They have it where it's $1 billion... it's a billion-year contract.
Yeah.
That's what they call it, which, you know, they want to put a time limit on it. But...
People are putting time on
Wicca...
stuff. Yeah, all the Wicca and everything like that.
Modern astrology believes in it. I mean, literally, you can't name a sect or a religion and it not have reincarnation in it.
It's in there, right? And that reincarnation... You have to... It's not about coming back as a bug, okay? If you're already...
Being punished.
Yeah.
Your own hell.
This isn't about punishment, right? This is just about learning. And how we talked about before, there is no good or bad. There's just energy.
Yes.
And it's how do you choose to polarize that energy in this physical form right here determines how that soul is going to learn. And so that when you're finished with this physical vessel, it can go and then review in the astral, the higher realms, or what you call heaven. I don't care what it is. Right. It will review the periods of this life, and then it will choose whether or not it wants to come back. A Bodhisattva, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is a figure that is enlightened to a high enough point through the stages of its learning, right, of its higher self, that instead of choosing to sit in nirvana or that highest realm because it's learned the lessons it needs to learn, it comes back to then share those lessons with people in physical form. So it's this enlightened being that comes back like Jesus, right? You know, or Sanat Kumara, whatever you want to believe in, right? They came back as a bodhisattva to tell people that there's a higher form, there's more things going on in life. They chose to push back nirvana and that essential bliss, that source energy, that one place that they're all trying to go back to, that true home of where they came from, where that light actually originated from. They're going to put that on hold so that they continue to share this story, this hope, this faith, this charity, this altruism, this giving this higher form of truth with people that weren't being fed that hope, that were being told out of a state of fear and control that you're going to burn in hell, you were born of sin, all these other things, right? So that there's just a beauty and a joy and a higher respect for life and the energy of the individual through this form that they begin to talk about. And it's almost like a disrespect for the soul and the person and the true value that we all have if we live in that fear or that idea that, you know, we have all these sins and am I going to be able to clear out these sins or am I just going to end up burning in hell? You know what I mean?
And you can never put time on the soul.
It's timeless.
How often in these religions are they trying to put time and make it of the utmost importance that this life is the most important?
You got to do it right now. It's like a business book. You got to do it right now. It's timely. You got to do it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You're going to miss the opportunity. Your opportunities are endless. The question is, do you want to learn your lessons in this life? Or do you want to spend the next 1,000 lives learning those lessons, right? And that's the choice for you to make right now.
Yeah, I love it.
Do you want to sit in that higher form, that higher dimensional space, right? That higher density, to vibrate at a faster rate, to move up your octave, and live in that state of bliss outside of fear? Or do you want to continue to live in that fear? Not learn those lessons, right? Perpetuate the same old cycles that make you sick and draw your energy out of you every single day? Or do you want to put a new lens on your world? See the real beauty in it? And then start to respect it, yourself, individuals, and everything else at a higher form, and understand that what you're leaving here and the actions you do will affect you and everyone else into the future.
I love that. Well, we're going to end this show because we've gone an hour.
Yeah.
And our next week, we're going to talk about
biological studies. Yes.
Yeah, biological studies with reincarnation.
Yeah, and that way we can, because people love proof, they love measurement.
Right.
We're going to hit them with the measurement, right? And we're going to explain to them how these things happened and all these stages and all the documented proof of how reincarnation has actually moved from life to life.
I love it. And we want to thank our sponsors.
Turtle.co.
And Rigby Digital.
Thank
you. You can go to turtle.co, sign up.
Yep.
And start getting paid for your data you use.
Yeah, it's
online.
It's the future. Start respecting yourself and what you create. And if you need a website made, you're a small and medium-sized business, Rigby Digital is the only place you want to go to. They build the most beautiful websites. And if you need a prime example, go to higherdensityliving.com. And if you can, like, subscribe, and share our material. Remember, it's all free. We're on this journey together, and all is one. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.